Welcome, students. My name is Lisa Erickson. I am the College and Career Coordinator at Graduation Alliance. And today I want to focus on something that is really important for all college students, and that is learning the best way to study and how study skills are so important. So, we're going to talk about some different strategies you can use to hopefully work smarter, not necessarily harder. Okay. So, we are going to go through some different ways that will hopefully help you utilize your time in the best way possible to help you be successful as a college student. So, one thing that I want to talk about first is this idea that a lot of students have that reading equals studying. And that is not true. What is important is that you are actively studying, and reading is kind of a part of that pre study activity, but you need to be actively engaging in the material. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. That includes creating a study guide. You could even create your own quiz, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. You can create examples and connections, hopefully, with the material that connects to your own personal life. You can also create concept maps, diagrams, ways to connect information and have it make a little bit more sense in maybe a visual way. And then also thinking about studying in terms of questions and evidence and conclusion, kind of moving through this process of what do you think is going to be asked? How will you be able to present information and evidence to be able to answer that? And what is kind of the conclusion of what it is that you have been learning from your readings, from your notes, from your lectures, all of those things together. So I want to talk about a few other great tips that I think can be very beneficial. And one of those is this idea of spacing, where studying is important, but making sure you do it the right way and that you space out your studying over several short periods of time makes a big difference, because long study sessions can often lead to a lack of concentration. And when you're not concentrating, that can also lead to a lack of learning and retention. So it's most effective to think about short time periods where you can work on studying and you can do it every single day. Okay. And you'll need to kind of spread that out. And so you'll need to make sure that you focus on your schedule. And that's something that we're going to talk about here in a moment, too. But you might also want to consider keeping a list of tasks that you need to get done for each course, and then make sure that you utilize your study time to address all of those things. Okay. So it's important when it comes down to it as to how you use your study time, not how long you study. Because you hear about people saying, oh, I study for hours and hours and hours. And you think, oh, how much of that do you think they really were able to remember? Right. So thinking about that will really help you. And if you're able to do a little bit of studying each day, that's going to help you procrastinate less, because sometimes you get into that mindset of, oh, my study day is Friday and I have this huge long study session and I'll just wait until then. But if you think about it as every day from 5 to 6 o'clock, this is the time I study, and I do a little bit every day, it will be a much more successful way of understanding and remembering that information. The next one I definitely connect to. I think this is really interesting because silence isn't necessarily the best way to study. So you need to know where you study best, and that might not be the library. Right? Some people think it needs to be a quiet place, it needs to be, this kind of an environment. And I had a lot of success studying in libraries, but sometimes I worked better in an environment that had maybe a little bit more noise, where I had to kind of cancel it out. That was actually more helpful for me. Sometimes that silence can make it more difficult, right? So keep that in mind, okay? Sometimes you want to be in a place where you can talk out loud, where you can repeat the information, and say it back. I also really liked listening to music when I study. So sometimes just putting in headphones was really helpful. Just kind of some certain kinds of songs that might be helpful. Other people, that might be distracting. For others, like the library and the silence, that might be distracting. So you have to kind of figure out where you study best. Okay. And to go along with that, think about the setting that you're in. You know, think about, places maybe around campus, in your home, outdoors, whatever it might be. But find a couple of different places, try them out, see where you are most effective when it comes to a study space. And sometimes you find one and then later on it doesn't really work for you. So switching it up and continuing to figure that out is kind of a part of the process. And then not only knowing a good place, but also when you study best is important. And for some people, they might focus the best at 9 o'clock at night. Others, they want that early morning, 7 a.m. study time. You have to just figure out what works for you. And when your mind is the sharpest and your memory is kind of at its peak place, and then use that information to help you. I think this one's a great one because I think we all look at this idea of multitasking as something that is quote unquote efficient, but it's really not. It can actually have negative effects on you if you're trying to do too many things at once. So, in order to study smarter, not harder, which is what we're after here, you'll need to eliminate as many distractions as you possibly can. Social media, web browsing, playing games, texting, all of those things can make it much more difficult. Okay. Decreases really the quality of the learning, right? So take that break. And then maybe if it's something that you really love, then reward your study session with something else, right? Think about that. Once you've done the studying, put in the time, what is it that you're looking forward to at the end once you've made that happen? Okay. So when it comes down to it, eliminating distractions, that's going to allow you to really fully engage during your study session. I like this one a lot too, something that you might not have thought about before. Become a teacher. Try to explain the information that you're learning in your own words as the teacher. And you will see from that what areas maybe you're confused about, what you need to learn a little bit more about, what you're not retaining. Okay. And as you're explaining this information to yourself, to a group, to a partner, to a family member, a friend, whoever it might be, you can hopefully start to use some maybe personal examples, making connections between concepts, just like a teacher would. But you're doing this as a way to really remember information. You might even want to go as far as creating a quiz for yourself and thinking about how your professor might think. And that quizzing, piece might be highly effective. You might want to create a study guide, carry it with you, make flashcards, and then use that information to teach yourself or to teach others as a way to show if you really are understanding that information. Another one, taking control of your calendar. I mean, controlling your schedule will really help you with distractions and help you accomplish the goals that you've set for yourself. So, same time every week, sit down, plan out that calendar. Maybe it's something you do Sunday morning as you're kind of preparing for the next week, right? Go through, think about each class, what you'd like to get completed. You're going to add to this probably as you go throughout the week, as you go to your classes and see what actually needs to be done, right? But make sure you put those things in there, assignments that need to be completed, when the due dates are, all of those things. Okay. You really have to look at your calendar and determine how many hours you have and how you're going to use that time to the best of your ability, right? One thing that I really love is I like to make a plan kind of the night before for the next day. Plan it out. That way you've got it kind of all there. You're ready to go. You have a to do list, you have a calendar, and then you make adjustments as needed, and that's okay. All right, the last thing, use your downtime to your advantage. We often don't think this. Sometimes you think, oh, this is a really simple week. But oftentimes, that means a lot is coming your way very soon. So instead, use that light week to study a little bit, maybe a little bit every day, so you're ready to go for that next week, right? If you've completed all the work for a class, use that time to get ahead, start working on some projects that are coming up, okay? So use that time to the best of your ability, right? All right, guys. I found these great tips on this website here. There are tons of wonderful tips out there. I hope you guys will utilize these and start to think of the ways that work the very best for you and start to make changes, start to integrate these ideas and strategies, and hopefully it will help you become an even more successful student. Thank you so much.